What's happening, everybody out there? My name is Jakejames Lugo, and welcome to the channel. So if you guys didn't know, I really love the Devil May Cry series. I've played all the games on PlayStation 2 and really love a lot of the lore and the craziness and the style of the DMC series. I mean, look at me, I'm wearing my leather jacket right now, so I'm feeling kind of stylish. But we got a brand new Devil May Cry game this year, and at the same time, we also got a brand new Resident Evil game, even though it was a remake of a classic entry in the series. But these two have such an interesting legacy together, so we have to talk about this game. So without further ado, let's just dive into this review. This is Devil May Cry 5. Devil May Cry 5 is the next big game in the DMC series from Capcom. This isn't a sequel of the reboot that was made by Ninja Theory and simply titled DMC. Instead, Devil May Cry 5 goes back to the original story continuity from the PS2 games and continues right after Devil May Cry 4. If you've missed out on the story from previous games, Devil May Cry 5 does a great job of recapping everything for you in a short history of DMC video in the main menu. You'll definitely want to watch it since there's many references to stuff throughout the entire Devil May Cry franchise, including the anime series and the manga. DMC fans are going to love this because stuff that you never thought would get referenced gets some fun nods here and there. At least everything except the terrible Devil May Cry 2, and we all know why that is. Devil May Cry 5 starts with Nero, the hero of DMC 4, and gradually introduces us to other characters as you progress through the story. Both he and Nico, a goofy southern lady weaponsmith with a heavy accent, hunt demons around Redgrave City in the wake of a massive demon tree causing all types of havoc. As you'd expect, this brings the attention of the devil hunter Dante and causes him and Nero to cross paths once again. In addition, we see fan favorites like Lady and Trish return as well as the introduction of the mysterious V, someone who has connections that are pretty deep to everything that's going on. If you wanted to see Devil May Cry return to the stylish action and the crazy demonic visuals that it's known for, then you're really going to love what's happening here. Devil May Cry 5 uses the new Resident Evil engine for its graphics, which presents the action beautifully. Killing demons with style and flair is what Devil May Cry is all about, and Devil May Cry 5 makes it very clear from the very get-go. Now, I know my review is a little bit later than usual after release, but I really wanted to talk about Devil May Cry 5 because I feel like it has a bunch of different stuff that makes it one of the best entries in the series. I really dig the story, even though I feel it ends a little bit too abruptly, but it borrows elements from games like Devil May Cry 3 and even the original Devil May Cry to make an amalgamation of some really good awesomeness that people love about this entire series. I think it's pretty cool that we get some new characters, including Nico, who is the weaponsmith for Nero. She makes all his different arms and stuff, and a bunch of different comic relief in relation to some of the other characters. I think it's also cool that we finally get to see Dante, Lady, and Trish once again. They're the staples of the entire Devil May Cry franchise, and it's awesome to see them in a new adventure and also crossing paths with some of these other characters. Even though we've had that a few times in previous games, this one it feels like they're actually crossing paths and interacting a little bit more so than ever before. I also think that it's pretty cool that we get a brand new character that's really mysterious, that has all these different things related to him going on with the main plot. There's a little bit of an element of mystery there, and even though you could still see certain things coming from like a mile away, they do have a satisfactory payoff. Even though, again, I feel like the ending of the game is a little bit too abrupt for my taste. One thing I do have to mention that I feel is very hilarious, there's this history of DMC video that's in the main menu, and it gets you caught up to all the different story plot points from throughout the Devil May Cry franchise, but the way that they handle Devil May Cry 2 is utterly hilarious. That game is really terrible, and anybody that's played that game before knows how bad it is, so it's pretty cool to see Capcom being a good sport about it. They kind of just bypass it and like shoo it to the side. They're like, this is what happened here, so let's move on. I found that to be personally very funny as a fan of the series. There's a lot of fan service that goes into this. Speaking of fan service, there's a lot of references and nods from throughout the entire franchise. Like I mentioned before, there's stuff in here that gets mentioned or gets some sort of nod that you wouldn't ever expect to get some sort of like mention at all, especially later on in the series. Stuff from the anime, stuff from the manga. I feel like stuff like that is really damn cool. But outside of looking good and talking all this big game, you actually have to have the moves to back it up. And Devil May Cry is all about style and flair, especially when you're fighting. So let's talk about gameplay, which personally for me, I feel like is some of the best in the entire series. Without question, the gameplay in Devil May Cry 5 is awesome. The controls and movement are very similar to Devil May Cry 4, but brings in elements from past games like Devil May Cry 3. Basically, you chain attack combos together and try to get a high ranking in battle as you fight groups of demons. You're constantly graded on your fighting style based on the variety of moves that you do, the number of enemies that you attack, and how quickly you are in a fight. The crazier you go with your attacks, the higher your combo rating will be. There are 3 playable characters, which you switch between throughout the story. You start out with Nero at the beginning of the game, who fights with his Devilbringer arm to grab enemies and execute a variety of special attacks that are devastating and powerful. For a more classic feel, you have the fan favorite and series hero Dante. He controls very similar to Nero in many ways, but his arsenal of moves and weapons are very different. Dante's combat styles from Devil May Cry 3, the Gunslinger, Royal Guard, Swordmaster, and Trickster styles, return in this game, which makes him wild and vicious in combat. He plays more like you remember him from past games, but with a few tweaks and additions to his repertoire and his famous Devil Trigger. Between both Nero and Dante, I can't choose which is better since they're really different and will stand out depending on what kind of player you are. Both have moves and abilities you can purchase with red orbs you gather in combat, all of which really open up some crazy combos and ways to fight your enemies. The final character you play as is V. This guy is very different than both Nero and Dante, specifically because he attacks with shadow allies instead of fighting enemies head-on. V can't take a lot of damage, so it's best to stay a bit away as your minions attack first before going in for the final blow to destroy them. This is a radically different approach to the combat in the DMC series and really mixes things up a whole lot. V can use his Devil Trigger to call upon a powerful golem called Nightmare, which can take out larger groups of enemies and be super helpful in combat. This looks amazing on screen, but can also make things very chaotic when you can't make out exactly who you're targeting and what demon you need to destroy. Again, it's hard to choose which is the best between all 3 characters because they are all very different from one another, but one thing I can say about Devil May Cry 5 is that this is the best combat of the entire series. It simply doesn't get any better than this. I really enjoy the gameplay here in Devil May Cry 5. I just think it feels so good to play with. You're fighting all these different demons, you're doing all these crazy maneuvers, and it just feels so good to execute them. This is one of the best things about Devil May Cry and a lot of the different games in the series. They just feel good to play. Here, it just feels so buttery smooth. All the different maneuvers you could do, whether you're playing as Nero, Dante, or even V, all the different stuff that you're able to kind of combo from and actually execute on your enemies, it just feels and looks so goddamn good. Between all 3 different characters, they all have their little gimmicks here and there, but they all are still tangential to the core gameplay that makes Devil May Cry 5 so damn good. While I think it would have been interesting to have some of the other characters playable as well, including Trish and Lady, I think that would have been interesting to see if they offer anything new to the equation, especially since some of them were playable in previous DMC games. But what we got here between the 3 main characters you could switch between, I think that's pretty awesome. But there's still one thing I want to touch on that I feel like is very important that isn't really explored too much in this game, but I feel like it could lead to some great stuff in future entries of the series. An interesting yet shallow feature in Devil May Cry 5 is the cameo system. While not being true co-op multiplayer, the cameo system allows you to spot other players in the background during certain missions when playing online. In missions where you get to choose which character to play with, you can spot another player who picked the opposite character fighting enemies in the distance as you progress. There are some missions where you can converge and fight demons together, but these are far and few between and you're matched up randomly to other players online. You can't just invite a friend over into a mission and kill demons together. At the end of a mission, players can rate each other's performance and receive gold orbs for doing so. Honestly, I was disappointed by this because this could be so much more. This shows that co-op multiplayer could be a great thing for the Devil May Cry series. I would love to see this fully realized in a future game, but in here, it's very shallow and could have been explored a lot more. With what's shown to me here in Devil May Cry 5's cameo system, it really makes me want a true online co-op multiplayer experience within a Devil May Cry game. Those moments when you're actually converging with other players and you're fighting demons together, they're so far and few between, but when they do finally happen, this actually sparks and actually shows that something like this could be done rather well. Imagine getting a Bloody Palace type of mode where you're able to invite either another friend or two and actually tag team up together to take out groups of demons together. I feel like that'll be really freaking awesome, but in Devil May Cry 5, they never really truly commit to it. It feels like they wanted to test the waters just a tiny bit, at least enough to give you a taste of what this could be, without ever fully truly committing to it and putting a black spot on the actual gameplay. I'm hoping in Devil May Cry 6 or any other like spin-off of the series, we can maybe explore this a little bit more, because I feel like, going through this, I feel like myself and other people really want a mode like this, even if it's just like a side mode, not really kind of, part of the main story, but even like a side mode like Bloody Palace or even an extra DLC, because I think this could really work very well. And speaking of Bloody Palace and other modes, let's talk a little bit about the extra content that is in Devil May Cry 5, which I feel like is a little bit slim at best. The amount of content in Devil May Cry 5 is rather slim to me. You can unlock more difficulty levels after finishing the game, as well as new costumes that come with DLC and completing some of the harder difficulties, but there's not much beyond that. The game got a free update called Bloody Palace Mode, which if you played previous Devil May Cry games, you will know that this is a gauntlet where you fight groups of enemies and gather red orbs and other bonuses to spend on special moves and other things. This is cool and very appreciated, but I was hoping to play through another side story or any other side content from the main plot. I would have liked to see what Lady and Trish were up to when things were going down, or even have a few missions that give a little bit more insight into certain characters that I won't spoil in here. The ending of the game I felt was very abrupt and could have used a bit more to liven it up. Overall, I can't say Devil May Cry 5 offers a lot of content to dive into, but that doesn't mean it's not a fun ride along the way. It's still very stylish, wild, fun, and packs a hell of a punch. If you actually like playing through all the extra difficulty levels that you unlock when you finish the game in Devil May Cry 5, that's totally fine. But when I do say endgame content or extra game content with something like Devil May Cry 5, I'm talking more about extra side stories or other things that are going on parallel to the main plot. I would love to see the actual stories or any other gameplay involving Trish and Lady, because again, they take a little bit more of a backseat towards the end of the story, and even then I feel like the story ends so abruptly that it could be expanded upon a little bit more. This could be done either through DLC or it could have been done through some extra stuff that you can unlock after finishing the main game. You know what else would be kind of cool? If we got an Elseworld story that changes up some of the events of the main plot. If we're playing as different characters, maybe they're the ones that change up some of the stuff that happens in the main story, or maybe certain events that were really big get flipped on their head and kind of really mix things up. That would actually be kind of cool, especially for DLC. But as it stands right now, if you're just playing Devil May Cry 5 just straight up like that without any other DLC and stuff here and there, you're only just getting so much. You're only just getting the main story and just alternate variations with the extra difficulty modes, which to me is a little bit slim. So overall, is Devil May Cry 5 any good, and should you pick it up? Absolutely hell yes. This game is freaking amazing. This game is a lot of fun. This game is really stylish overall. If you've never played any of the other Devil May Cry games before and you're just lost in the story, you never really experienced this type of gameplay, the game does a good enough job to get you caught up to speed and really kind of push you right into the action. That way you can start having a lot of fun killing demons. Is it overall the best in the series? I think that's very debatable. There's a strong case here with all the gameplay elements and a lot of the different stuff that's going on in the story and all the fan service that really respects the legacy of the franchise. I think there's a very strong case that could be built for DMC5 being the best in the entire Devil May Cry series. Whether that's true or not is really up to you guys, but for me personally, I feel like Devil May Cry 5 has a phenomenal experience that I think a lot of people are going to love, and you should definitely pick it up when you can. Anyway guys, that's my thoughts on Devil May Cry 5. I think it's dope, I think it's fun, I think it's stylish, just like how I am with this leather jacket. It's overall a great gaming experience, no matter what platform you pick it up for. But I'm curious to see what you guys think about Devil May Cry 5 or anything related to the DMC series. Put it in the comment section down below. Tell me some of your favorite DMC games, some of your favorite characters, or anything that's about the Devil May Cry series. Put it down below in the comment section. And of course, as always, don't forget to leave a like on this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos just like this one. I have a ton of reviews, I have a ton of podcast episodes, a lot of other cool content that I know you guys are gonna love. And also, please, guys, check out my Patreon page. I have a ton of exclusive content on my Patreon. For the $1 level or higher, you're getting a ton of exclusives, including exclusive podcasts, early access to videos, and a lot of other great perks that I know you guys will really dig. So check out my Patreon page when you guys get a chance. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys. I will talk to all of you again very soon. Peace out, and stay epic, everybody. Thanks very much for watching this video review, everyone. I really appreciate all the support as always. Make sure you guys check out the videos I put here on the side, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And also, check out some of the links I have down below. Talk to you guys again real soon. Peace out, and stay epic, everybody.